I would like to welcome you to today's event. This is a momentous day for our organisation. As the Chamber, we are proud to celebrate our 30 years in business, which was actually in May, so we're a couple of months behind. But we're here, that's the main thing. An achievement would have not been possible without a number of variables to support the commitment of our past and present employees, the work of the founding directors, and the current work of the Arab and Irish directors who have worked together in particularly testing times. And last, but by no means least, the Arab embassies, and of course our clients and members of our Chamber, for the continued belief and support, believe in what we do in our Chamber.
My name is Joe Geoghegan. I am the outgoing chairman of the Arab-Irish Chamber of Commerce, which today is celebrating its 30th anniversary. It's a very important milestone in the Chamber's history. It's also a significant and emotional day for me because the first board meeting of the Chamber took place on the 12th of May 1987. I attended that, and I've had the honour of being on the board for the following 30 years. First of all, we have our annual general meeting that will take place shortly. Following that, we have a celebratory lunch to mark this special occasion. It will be opened by Minister Pat Breen, Minister for Trade, and we have a very important special guest, His Royal Highness Prince Turki Al Faisal, who in fact at one time was the Saudi ambassador to Ireland, based in London. He is a speaker of international renown, and we look forward very much to hearing his words of wisdom about what he sees as happening in the broader Arab region.
Well, I suppose the major objective is to facilitate trade between Ireland and the Arab countries in both directions. So it's our job to ensure that our members, our clients who are, generally speaking, Irish companies doing business in the Arab world, that their job is made easier for them, that we ensure their documentation and their legalization services are provided. And we also provide advice. We offer advice and assistance in terms of dealing business with particular countries. Well, I think it's important to say that the Arab world and the Islamic world in general has had a rather bad press in recent years, and there are a lot of fears in Western countries everywhere in Europe about relationships with the Arab world, and we would hope to try and alleviate these worries and point out that Arab countries are extremely good places to do business in, that Arab people, Arab business people make very good partners, and the trade opportunities are enormous. And the Arab market is something that Ireland cannot afford to turn its back on, and we want to encourage as many Irish companies as possible to do business in the Arab world.
Before we begin to follow the agenda, I just want to take a moment to record a very sad event that affected the Chamber the week before last, and that was the sudden and unexpected and tragic death of our colleague Rafal, who has worked at the Chamber dedicatedly for over 20 years. She was sadly and much too soon actually taken from us. Her loss was a shock and very sad for the staff, obviously for her family, but also I know that many of you and many of our clients were also affected by that event. So could we just take a minute to reflect on Rafal and our knowledge of the wonderful, dedicated, hard-working person that she was. Okay, thank you. So let's begin by following the agenda.
As we heard today at the AGM, the demand for documentation has now become almost by return. So the Chamber has had to adapt and move into the digital age, and new systems are now being put in place for rapid turnaround of those documents. So we would call upon the Chamber, say, when we have to get our technical expertise validated and put into the correct format to submit to clients in the Middle East. The population of the Arab world is forecast to exceed that of the European Union in the coming years. So the Chamber will continue to adapt and face the challenges needed.
Just want to say it's a great privilege for me to be here with you all this afternoon to celebrate what is a special event, a landmark event really, the 30th anniversary of the foundation of the Arab Irish Chamber. As rightly pointed out, go back to 1987, that's when the Chamber was founded, and it was founded for one reason. It was founded to promote growth and development of trade and commercial relations between Ireland and the Arab countries. So I would like to take this opportunity to briefly thank the Chamber for the valuable and very important role and work which they have done in developing those very successful relations between the Arab world. But of course the Chamber also has other activities which they support the Arab Irish Film Festival, and of course they publish the very useful journal, the Arab Irish Journal. They continue to work closely with our agency, Enterprise Ireland, on developing Irish-Arab business relations, and I think this was clearly seen in their close work also with the Arab Irish Business Forums, which took place in 2015 and 2016. The forum attracted a large number of people and speakers on doing business in the region, and was attended by hundreds of Irish companies. I suppose what's clear to me from my visits, that we have a lot to learn from each other, but above all else, I think we've much to offer to each other as well. And that's where the collaboration comes into place. That's where the Irish Arab Chamber of Commerce comes into place as well. And I think in recent times, we've seen the increased connectivity to the region. 10, 12 years ago, there wasn't a direct flight into the UAE or into Qatar. Today, I think we've over 33 connections a week, serving Dublin with Abu Dhabi, Dubai, and Doha. And I'm glad to see some representatives I see from the Emirates down there as well. So that connectivity outside these areas being hubs is so important to develop links with businesses and also in the tourism sector as well. However, I think the region can still be a very challenging market to enter for small to medium enterprises that I work with. The Chamber again provides essential advice and guidance to help these businesses gain, I suppose, an important foothold in the region and to grow their businesses as well. And again, that's where the Chamber comes into place. Ladies and gentlemen, before I finish again, I just want to say it's an honour for me to be here with you to address this very important milestone in the history of the Irish Chamber of Commerce, to be with so many distinguished people. As I've said to him, we're now the fastest growing economy in Europe. Growth is at a phenomenal high rate. Unemployment is down to almost to 6%. And all this is done, I think, through the various agencies which we have, the IDA, the Enterprise Ireland, the government, and of course, people like the Chambers of Commerce, people like the Arab Irish Chamber who have played their role. I want to support the impact they've had here in the Irish economy, and I would like to assure them of my department strong continued support in the important work which they do. Thank you very much indeed.
First of all, I want to say what a great honour it is for me to have been elected today as chairman of the Arab-Irish Chamber of Commerce. I promise I will do my very best to follow at all times in Joe's very distinguished footsteps. Secondly, I have the greatest pleasure in introducing our guest speaker today. It is His Royal Highness Prince Turki Al Faisal. He is a most distinguished individual whose career goes back many years. There is no one, I think, who knows better than Prince Turki does about how the Middle East is in a certain degree of turmoil. He knows better than anybody else the intricacies of the House of Saud in the kingdom. He knows the problems and the difficulties that will arise if we don't resolve the Palestinian problem, if we don't resolve the problems of terrorism, of Al-Qaeda and ISIS. He knows more than anybody else about what could and should be done in issues of this nature. And I've no doubt that when he talks to us now today, he will give us a very fascinating insight into just how the world, and in particular how the Middle East is developing, and how peace and stability can be restored in what is still sadly a troubled region of the world. So it was with great pleasure, therefore, that I invite His Royal Highness to come in and talk to us today. Your Royal Highness.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Ladies and gentlemen, it's great to be back in Ireland. Conasa Thaudu. Going around us, of course, as I mentioned, we have many trouble spots. Palestine remains an unacceptable problem. And I think the main reason that it remains so is because the world has come to treat Palestine in a manner of crisis management rather than crisis resolution. The world community has accepted, it seems, that the occupation of Israel, of Palestine, will continue, and that the expansion of Israeli settlements on Palestinian land will continue. And the confinement of the Palestinian people, whether in Gaza or in other communities in the West Bank, will continue. And that is unacceptable. And Ireland has played a leading role in trying to get that situation resolved, and I hope that we will continue to work with Ireland in order to achieve that goal. The Arab position is very clear on that. The Arab Peace Initiative is on the table. All of the world countries have accepted the Arab Peace Initiative except Israel. And if the world wants to be constructive in solving this problem, they have to convince Israel to accept the Arab Peace Initiative. And they can accept it with conditions. But even that has not been forthcoming. Moving to Syria, another example, I think, where crisis management is the mode rather than crisis resolution. The world community, unfortunately, has come to accept that the killing of Syrian people is all right. And that is not fair. More than 500,000 people have been killed in Syria. The world community has the military wherewithal deployed in Syria to stop the killing. Just think of the military forces that are operating in Syria. The American-led coalition that is fighting Daesh. The Russians that are fighting all the other Syrian groups, including the Syrian people. The Iranians with their forces in there. Turkey with its forces in there. Saudi Arabia's and other countries' contributions to the Syrian people. we can all put a stop to the fighting if we agree on that. But unfortunately, that has not been the case. And all the ceasefires that have been implemented or have been announced in Syria have lacked one common factor, and that is a means to implement them. There is no third party to take to task anybody who breaks a ceasefire in Syria. And that's why you have these continuous and constant attempts at making ceasefires, and as we see, the killing continues and the suffering of the Syrian people continues. I, as a person who lives in the Middle East and who has spent his life hoping to be a constructive factor in bringing peace and stability in the Middle East, I still have hope. Because I cannot give up hope and maintain my life in whatever condition it may be. Again, I want to thank all of you who have come here to hear what I have to say. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask them. And as I said, in as much as you heard me, I'm sure I will benefit from the questions that you have. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.